In this video, I'm actually going to open step 4. This is where I created all my Toolpaths for my base and my top. And now I'm going to create another setup. But in order to do that, we're actually going to hide some things here in our Models tab because we don't need the clamp and we don't need the base. I'm sorry. Yep, and we don't need the base here. What we just want to have is the top, as you can see. If I flip it over here, you can see that's the top I created. So since that's all linked together, it shows up there. All right, now we're ready to go with a brand new setup. So let's go to setup. And the stock is going to be a fixed box size. And I gotta remember by going back to my other setups here what those sizes were. So let's go back here. I'm gonna hit cancel. The first thing I'm gonna do is one of these setups, I'm gonna see that the stock size was 4.48 and 3.5105. Okay, let's do that. So setup again, and then a fixed box size, and we set 4.48 and 3.5105. And then I can actually hit this corner here for that. The stock Z height is pretty important, so that's going to be a little different. We're going to go from the bottom with no offset from the bottom, a 0 offset, so it's straight from the bottom. You can see that if I click this right view here. See how it's perfectly on the bottom? It's a little bit higher on the top. What we measured from the top there is 0.9 is going to be right on the top. That's what I want my model to finish at, is 0.9, but that's not necessarily where my origin point is going to be. All right, I know that on my origin point here, I'm going to actually take off 0.095, and I can show you what I mean by that. So with my box, I want to find the smallest or the lowest point on the top, and I did a pretty good job cutting it on the bandsaw, so it's almost the same. If I were to say something, I'd say the smallest is about right where my finger is. And so I'm going to measure that extra clamp with my dial caliper. I did that already, and I got 0.195. So I'm going to add plus 0.095 here, and then I'm ready to go. And I have my setup here just a little bit bigger than that. And I'm going to click OK. Make sure my tool isometric view is correct. And it is. And I'm going to click OK. All right, so that's great. So now I'm going to take off that little bit. I can look from the side here. I'm going to take off this top portion down to here, and it's only 0.095, so I can do it in one pass. Very simple to do. I'm just going to click face mill, and I'm going to use the same tool we've been using before, that 1/4 inch one. The geometry is selected correct. The height should be selected correct. Should be. It just automatically going to face to the stock. We can click a step over a little bit bigger here, so we make it a little bit faster. So I'm going to say 0.225 for the step over, and then I'm going to go to linking here, and I'm going to get rid of these lead-in entries. We're just going to plunge right in, and then click OK. And you'll see that it's going to face mill it off up until the top of that box. Okay, just like so. So we're ready for the face mill. The other one's very simple too, and that's going to be our pocket. So 2D pocket, I'm going to click in here. It's going to be the same tool. The heights should be correct there. The only height we could change is the top height could be the model top, because it's already gone now that we just took it off of the face mill. And the passes, of course, we're not going to leave any stock. And I actually don't have to select multiple depths because I know that's not over 0.125, and I'm ready to go. I'm going to take out my lead-in entries because I just don't like those. So take out these lead-in entries and change this to plunge and click OK. And there that is. So we have our face mill and we have our pocket. Now we get the hard part here, which is, there's a bunch of different options, and we'll go over those next. All right, so here's some options, and honestly, it's going to be you just kind of trying out things until you make it look right. The great thing is we have the simulation right here inside of Fusion. So let's take a second here to go to our setup. I forgot to do this, and I'm going to just click slowly and put lid for that setup, so we know that's our lid. Another thing I'm going to do as we're going through this, don't get too far, is to resave this. I'm going to save this as step 6. You can just resave it, whatever you have saved, but I'm going to go ahead and click Save As this time, because I'm going to give it a new name, and I can just say step 6, and I'm going to put in here lid Toolpaths. However you did it before is fine. So we faced the top off, just to recap here, and we know that the top was a little bit bigger, 0.09 bigger. We had added 0.1 from the look of whatever our clamp was left over, and so that's why that was going on. And then we went ahead and we did a pocket inside of here, so we are going to have an inlay fit in there. So just a few different things that we've done. So let's get into our next one, which is going to be creating this kind of almost fillet-like look from the loft. So I'm going to give you one option, but it's a 3D operation, right? Because it's going in 3 different dimensions, X, Y, and Z. All the other ones were just 2D operations at once. And there's tons of different ones that are here. And so I suggest kind of hovering over one. This is the one I'm going to choose. It's called a parallel. You hover over it, you can kind of see what is going on, and then we can give it a different pattern if we want to. It's going to take some time to just try things. There is, as you go through them, there's different ones with contour and ramp, pencil and horizontal and spiral, radial. As you can see, there's all these different types of things that might work out, and it's good to kind of just try a few that the finish that you're going for. So I'm going to choose parallel in this case, and it's going to open up. I'm going to keep this same tool for now, just kind of show you the difference, and then for the one we just used, and then I'm going to go to the geometry. This is the tougher part here. So if I hover over this machining boundary, we get the examples of what we need to do here. And in fact, what I want to do is the selection, because I want to put it in between what I need. If I did a bounding box or a silhouette, it's going to do all the inside too. I just need it between the 2 spots here. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go to selection, and if I want it between this one, if I just select this, it's not only going to do everything on the inside, but it's also going to do it up here, which it doesn't need to. And then I'm going to select the outside here, and so now everything in between these 2 selections will be able to be parallel laced, if you will, in this case. All right. No offset. I think we can just go right to the edge. Okay, but you can see if you hover over any of these things, it'll tell you kind of what it's going to do. I'm just going to leave all this the same right now, and I'm going to go to my heights, and we have the height. The bottom height here is way on the bottom of the entire thing, so the model bottom. So I'm gonna change that to selection, and I'm gonna select this one of these lines. Doesn't matter, just we're getting a height here, so I'm gonna select that line too, so we don't go too far down. So another thing we're gonna try to remember. Next tab here, everything else should be fine with our retract height. It's not gonna retract too often because in our passes we're gonna try to keep the tool down. I want to get into this in a second. I'm going to show you what it looks like here with the pass direction. The step over is really big. So the step over distance is where you're going to save some time. And so right now it's got about a quarter of the diameter of 0.625. I'm going to make it exactly 0.625 here. And that kind of goes, and in the direction we probably want to click both ways, and so it goes up and down so it doesn't take longer. The multiple depths, it just depends how big it is, right? So how far down does it actually go? And I don't think it goes down that far, so I don't feel like we're gonna have to need this multiple depths in place. But you could put it on at 1.125, but if you do, it's gonna do 2 complete passes. It's gonna take a long time. And so let's just try without it just to see how it looks and what it looks like. Everything else should be okay, so we'll leave those all blank. Again, we can mess with some of those later. I'm going to come back to this in a little bit. All right, we don't have a multi-axis tool, so we're going to just kind of skip this one. And then linking, okay? We don't want a full retraction every single time. In fact, I want the shortest path Why do I want that? That's going to save some time with it. Now, if there was something in the way, that's when you'd go to full retraction. And again, you can hover over this as well to see what the options are, and it'll kind of give you some of those options of what it means by that. Kind of a cool way to do that. We want shortest path and a rapid retract. Okay. I believe everything else is okay. How you lead in, how you lead out, all your entry positions. Again, things that you can hover over to see what they mean by that. Okay. But that's right there. I'm going to change the feed rate though. I'm going to say always use high feed rate. Okay. And that's just going to help out a little bit with it. And we can always slow it down on the machine. Okay. Let's see what this looks like when I click OK. And it had the kind of the effect that we're going for here. If I were to see that, I'm going to see here, if I zoom in, you can see it's kind of a weird cutout though of this. So instead of doing it that way, because it doesn't really look, it looks good over here, but not here, maybe we can do it a different direction. So back to this only took a minute. Back to the parallel lace. I am going to go to the passes, and instead of doing it this way, I'm going to do a pass direction. This is one's kind of cool. So instead of going straight over, I'm going to do it at 45 degrees. And that will make it maybe more smooth around the part. So let's see what that looks like. And now we can see it's 45 degrees. Kind of made it a little bit smoother, if you will, with this same tool that's on there. And so that's a kind of a neat way to do it. And if I were to simulate this, and let's take a look, let's simulate this. What is it going to look like? So we have this, it simulates, it goes back and forth here, just like so. And kind of an odd thing that's going to be left right here. And what can I do to get rid of that? Well, I can pull the step over down. That's one thing I could do. Sometimes it's not perfect in the simulation here, but we can see kind of, that's what it would look like. Of course, all the blue on the outside here is gone, right, when I do this, because it's going to be taken out when I do this. But let's see what we have maybe with a different option here. And so that is with the flat end mill. And so I could change this, and we can change this to the ball end mill. And so I'm going to try that. Let's go to our Amana tools, and the one right above it is the same, except it's a ball, and hit select. Let's just see the effect that has on it. And I'm going to hit simulate, and we're going to simulate this, and we can see that maybe that's a better effect that we're going for. Kind of looks the same, but it has a nice more rounded spot to it, so kind of neat for that. I like the ball end mill. I like how that looks. However, when we change the end mill, I have no idea how to get my Z height correct, because it'll be a new bit in there, and so there's no way to get this Z, because it's going to be all gone. So it's going to be gone. So what are we going to have to do? Well, since it's a new tool, we're actually going to create a new setup then. And so I'm just going to click, and this should be pretty simple, okay? So I'm going to click a new setup. I'm going to click the corner here, and the stock. All right, it's still a little bit above there. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to bring that down. So fix box size. And we're going to bring that down. We're going to use the exact same stock size that we did before, 4.8. The depth is 3.5105. These are I was getting from before. The height is going to be from the bottom, and this time it's going to be 0.9, so that it's right on the top there. Okay, that's going to be my new Z height, and I'm going to click OK. So a different setup, and I should be able to, let's try this, I should be able to drag this parallel into this one. All right, now it's in this one. And then all I have to do is right click it because I got to regenerate it. It's got to regenerate with a new setup. So that's all it did. So now I can use that and get the new height because I'll have that height that I can use. So that's a decent one. One more thing I'm going to show you before I'm done here, and that is this ball mill. One really cool thing is I can go to passes. I like the 45 degrees. There's one button click here, adds a perpendicular pass. When I add that perpendicular pass, you can see the effect I have, that it's going to have a different effect on there. And we can go ahead and simulate that. We'll be able to see that effect when it's finished here. Goes all the way on one pass. And then on the second pass. And then hopefully we can zoom in here when it's finished. You can see the effect that it has. So I like that one. Kind of has little bumps there, but it looks really nice and uniform. That is up to you. Again, I would play with a bunch of different ones before you make your final decision on how you want your container lid to look.